Welcome back to In the Chute, where we hope to entertain, enlighten, and sometimes expose some of the stupidity that we do, as well as the brilliance that we do. So, Caitlin, what do you got for the day?
Uh, Questions about possibly our opinion or our take on other producers, ranchers, farmers, essentially other people in the agriculture industry that are on social media. So, we kind of talked about this before. This is one of the few ones that we wanted to make sure we're on the same page, so we're not, if we're critical, we're not being disrespectful to others and whatnot. But there's a couple. One of them's in our area, and he provides some good stuff, but not really that popular for us, in our opinion. There's some things that we think it goes a little overboard with, but then there's other things like Dale Brisby. If anybody's familiar with Dale Brisby, he's kind of more or less like a parody account, and he brings a lot of awesome, positive light to agriculture, rodeo, that type of stuff, which is awesome. And that's the stuff that we like to see, we like to promote, and we just love it in general because it's funny. But
It's
that's kind of like my initial take. I wanted to see what your thoughts were on other people on social media, YouTube, Facebook, so on and so forth.
well, I guess the thing I'm most looking for is authenticity. Are these
Sure.
people really? Are they really in the business? Have they been in the business? You can have a guy that's not in the business anymore, but he's got a ton of wisdom that he can share with somebody because he's been there and he's done it for, decades.
Well, and on
Uh,
the other side too, I've seen newbies, I say newbies, but people that have been within the industry for 5 years, and they act like they're big shots and they know all this stuff. And it's like, dude, you're literally still floating because of the overhead that you put in to begin with. I don't know how long you can sustain this. And others that are like, hey, getting into farming or ranching, this is what I've learned the last 5 years. It might be useful to anybody else that gets into it. I was like, I like seeing that because
yeah.
sometimes other people that are well established can take stuff from that and go, hey, maybe I can change some of my ways to fit and modernize to the current times.
Well, and if there's some information that's being shared with some genuine research that somebody has done, even if they haven't been in the business a lot or done a lot, or they're maybe even some of those passing themselves off as somebody who's done a lot, you can smell
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
But again, if they're trying to inform people and they're accurate with it, so what? I mean, that's kind of their little thing. I mean, I'm not going to judge them too harshly on that. It's when if they do something that's not what they're really up to and what they have the experience doing.
Right.
If they've read a book or they've watched somebody else and said it, then but that's in anything. That goes with any kind of a industry or any kind of a job. But Brisby cracks me up. Um, the kid's been around. That he's ridden some places where they've made some big loops. They've worked some cattle, but he's also the goofball that you would run
Over the
off
top.
over the top. You would run him off sometimes if he's treating your cattle like that. But as far as the humor and the practical jokes, people don't understand the guys that ride a lot. And my grandpa was one of my grandpa was a big deal about practical jokes and pranking somebody. I mean, that was the entertainment.
Yeah.
And sometimes the pranking was painful, and sometimes it was just humiliating. But
Uh,
either way, everybody did it, and you sucked it up, and you took your medicine, especially if you decided to prank somebody else, because it's coming around, and
I'll
it may
tell you
not be
what,
the guy you got.
there was one I saw today that was actually him on TikTok, which I thought was fantastic. They're in Texas, so they had a bigger river. Him and a guy waded their horses well into the river so that they could get a good drink. And he's looking over and goes, "Hey, that new hat?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "Mind if I take a look at it?" And he goes, "Sure." And he looks and he goes, "Oh, American made, huh?" He's like, "That's fantastic." He goes, "Hey, you swim?" And he goes, "No, not well." And he's like, "Okay." And he pushes him off his horse. And at least he saved the hat.
Saved
You
his
know what I
hat.
mean?
At least he saved it. You can see that coming. You know, the problem is the guys that I rode with, so those old guys would have thrown it upstream. If you're lucky, you might have got a
Yeah.
chance to,
Yeah.
to break in a new hat. I mean, so yeah, at least he was kind enough to save that hat. But yes, that is exactly the kind of stuff that goes on. Uh, if you're somebody's talking to you, and my grandpa was very soft spoken anyway, my mom's dad, and if he would kind of draw you in, you just keep leaning and leaning to listen to him. and you're riding along, and pretty soon he'd grab you out by the arm and try to pull you off your horse. Just little stuff like that. It's like, so yeah, Brisby's he's funny. He's doing a good job of showing the humorous side and the goofball stuff that young guys especially get themselves into. I mean,
Oh yeah.
we used to play tag on horses. The rule was, well, there was two rules. You had to be bareback, and whoever hit the ground was it. That was it. And it was like jousting without jousting poles. I mean, you'd get a headache the first 10 minutes you're playing this game. We'd play for hours that way, chasing and pushing or pulling or yanking each other off your horse or trying to ram into your another horse with your horse or into them. I mean, that was what we called fun. Hell, we didn't have TV.
Yeah.
We just didn't. And it's a wonder we didn't. I don't think I can remember anybody ever breaking a bone, which is shocking that, looking back at that would have happened.
Getting
But,
tough.
when you're 12 to 16 years old, you're so flexible that anything can hit you and it doesn't matter.
I'd say for me, there's two things because I'm dealing with the social media aspect way more than you are. And for me, the two things are um seeing how people react to things differently regionally. So they might be doing something very similar to us, but seeing how they are able to do it in a different place, like Texas. And I think I brought this up before in conversations. Like one guy was on TikTok criticizing people for getting hay. He's like, that's a waste of money. I don't understand how you stay in business doing that. I'm like, well, you're in South Texas, man. You don't need that in the wintertime.
Right.
You can manage with what you've got versus the rest of us in the north, we need it. So seeing stuff like that, taking into account other things that helps you kind of learn what other people are doing. And then just in general, kind of getting tidbits of wisdom and seeing, oh, that works there. I think that can work here too. So it's,
Right.
understanding the difference of regions, but then also taking bits of wisdom from other people and understanding like, hey, just because we're not where they are on followers and stuff yet, like it doesn't mean we won't be there. It's the process. They've just been around a couple more years. They've got different version of going about things. One day
Right.
we'll get seen. It's kind of one of those things too. It's like I use them as a landmark for like, oh, I'll get to be like them one day, trying to get our subscribers up and our
Right.
followers.
Well, and I think we've tried to make it very, very clear that I don't try to second guess what anybody else does because I'm not running their business. Their
Right.
resources and what they do and how they do it can be completely different than ours.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that you really shouldn't judge anybody on those merits until you fully understand what they're doing and what they're up against.
Right.
And you may have a something to help them. That's entirely possible. But they may have some kind of a challenge that you don't understand or don't know anything about,
Right.
and so some places in Texas, you're running a pair for 40 acres, for instance, where we're running, a pair for 20 acres. We're running twice as many cattle, but we got to feed them in the wintertime.
Right.
You go to some places in the southeast, you're looking middle Ohio Valley. God, you're running 20 pair per acre. And so it's all depends on what you're doing. What your resources are. So, I've seen a lot of big variety and hope to see more, because you can always innovate yourself. Hopefully, you can do that. But yeah, this is good to do this. Hopefully, we can help somebody, or somebody might give us a little criticism and we go, never looked at it like that, because
Sure.
we're happy to do that as well.
Yeah. Well, that's opinions on others on social media that are in the same industry as us, and also understanding that we can get some information and education from them as well. So with that, we'll take that conversation and put it out to pasture.